Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you coming in for another chat video. This is a few summer series that I like to do. I do some heart to heart sometimes, and I also do a sit down one on one with some interesting guests that are either creators, jewelry lovers, jewelry aficionados, jewelry resellers, or sellers in general. So I hope you help me welcome our wonderful guest today, Kiersten Red Resale. I'm going to have to ask you about the red in a minute, but let me put her on the screen for a second so she can tell us a little bit about her channel. And of course, we want your questions too. So put your questions in the chat because each one of us has a different perspective on what we do here on YouTube and what we do in general with jewelry and how we came about it and all of that. So please be sure and think of some interesting questions for us or whatever you want to know. Now is the day to probe, right?
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can get myself on and then I'll slide you over. There you go. I did it. All right. Welcome, Kirsten. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Well, my name is Kirsten, and let's see here. I started my channel a year ago. I just wanted a place to discuss jewelry, talk about jewelry, sell jewelry, and a safe place where people could just step outside of their lives for a short period of time and just enjoy themselves and not worry too much about what's going on in the world or their personal life, and just feel comfortable and safe. And I hope I've achieved part of that at least. You know, I still have goals for the channel, but baby steps, and it's been very enjoyable so far. I've learned a lot and continue to learn every day. So that's super important. And I hope I can share some of my little tidbits that I have as well, and just pass on knowledge and new friendships.
Well, we're glad you're here. Kirsten, let me ask you the name Red, Kiersten Red Resale. Where did that come about?
Okay. Let's see. Well, Red is my husband's stage name. He's been a performer for 30 plus years. And so for just logistics, we just kept with Red, and my son's last name legally is Red. That was an accident. So, and then resale was just because when I started my channel, it just said Kiersten Red, and I forget who it was, but another fellow YouTuber suggested you might want to put something else with it, maybe, because there's so many just Joe Schmoes on YouTube, you know. So I was like, well, okay, well, I resell stuff to resell, you know. So that's how that just came about. Yeah, it's different than all my other handles.
It is. And Kiersten Red would have been unique too. I would have loved that too. That's really cool. But it is good that you put what you do on your channel or similar, you know, so people can know when they drop in what exactly to expect from your channel. Again, what made you say, I'm going to get on YouTube and talk about jewelry? Was it were you looking for something in particular and found someone and then said, hey, I'd like to share my stuff too? That's how I came about with thrifting. I'm just wondering about you.
What happened? Well, it happened. It seemed very quickly. I think it took longer than I feel like it did. Unfortunately, I was having some pretty bad health issues, and I was sort of bedridden. I mean, I didn't have to lay in bed, but I couldn't really leave my home. And then the pandemic happened, like back to back. I'm a sculptor. I'm a trained artist. I'm a stone carver. And during that whole thing, I had no commissions, galleries closed, no showings. Plus, I had severe health issues that I had to work through physically and emotionally. I was never a huge YouTube person. My son and my husband, absolutely. So what else do you do when you're stuck? You know, so I was watching Netflix and started watching YouTube, and became friendly with some other jewelry people just from me just watching them and commenting. And, you know, and next thing you know, like, you know, people are encouraging me, you know, Kiersten, why don't you just try it? You don't have to sell. Why don't you do this? And were nice enough to have me on their channels to do like a collaboration type of sale thing. And I had so much fun. It was so much fun. And I was selling jewelry anyway. And I always have, even with all my other careers and education, because I was born into it, you could say.
Mhm.
So
So your background was you have a fine arts degree, is that correct? Or you
I have a,
studied art?
yeah, I have a couple degrees. I did study art. I have a master's in fine arts with concentration in art therapy. And I was going to be going for my medical degree, but Hahnemann University in Philadelphia closed. So I didn't finish that part of my journey. It just took elsewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
But sculpture was my jewelry, and sculpture were my concentrations for my BFA.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes.
That's very interesting. And you do stone carving. Welcome everyone who's here. We're going to talk a little bit more about her stone carving career and how she parlayed that into what she does now. But looks like I see Deborah here and Kathleen. Thank you all who are here. Tanya at My Jewelry Addiction, as well as Black Dog Vintage. Leslie's here. I think I saw Vanessa here. Thank you all. I hope you hit the thumbs up as you walk in the door. Please know you're going to find all of Kirsten's information for her channel here in the description box. If you click the link at Kiersten, it'll take you directly to her channel. So be sure and subscribe. She does actually have an auction tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday nights are her auctions, but I really enjoyed watching her other videos as well. That's kind of how I found her. I don't remember if I saw you with Gina first doing a sale or if I saw you in my chat and then I went and looked at your channel and you had that cute little story about going into a pawn shop to sell something and the pawnbroker took you aside. You want to tell us that lovely story that really kind of teared me up? I hope it doesn't tear you up again.
Yeah, it might. But okay, so I think I know there's a couple stories that were
Yeah.
really similar and they happened in a short period. Was it, I'm not sure if it was about Jewelers Row or the pawn shop. This was many, many years ago in Philadelphia. And I think I was pawning one of my grandmothers. I think it was something of my grandmother's. And I don't remember the wording he exactly used, but you know, jewelry all has stories to tell you.
There you go. That was it. Stories. Yes.
Okay. And sometimes, you know, they're not your story to know, and it's okay. But then there's times where it becomes part of you and your story to keep passing through. And the $50 or whatever it may have been might not have really been worth that, me losing my next step to my next story type of thing. And
Exactly.
yeah, of course I want to get to, you know, and it was just an awakening. It wasn't like I was dire straight. It was nothing like that. It was just being a stupid kid and saying, I'm not gonna wear them, or whatever it was, you know. And
right.
Just to hear another person's perspective who really had nothing to do with me, didn't know my grandmother or whatever the story was. To him, it was just business. But for him to step outside of that and just ground me a little bit.
Right. And I think he had that passion that so many people who handle jewelry, honestly, I believe they have to have it in order to really be good at it. I really think you do have to have a passion like that, where he made you see that you were holding on to history. And like he said, it wasn't necessarily your history, but it may have been now in your charge to, you know, as a curator or whatever. It brought me to really some profound thoughts, because I was in a situation similar. I sold jewelry that I wish I hadn't, that I had gotten when I was young. And I sometimes wonder, I mean, run into things that, oh, I remember my mother gave me this ring. It looked like a candy. It was a ruby. It was set in this particular way, and I've never seen another one like it. Or unfortunately, what happened to me and happens to a lot, people break into your home and take those possessions that can never be replaced. So yeah, I'm glad you shared that with us in that video. It was a really good video.
Thank you.
Though you were nervous, but I think you're relaxed now. Isn't she lovely? She's such a lovely woman. She really is. I'm glad you're relaxed. I like your background too. It's so interesting and pretty.
Oh, thank you. This is my Bubba, who I talk a lot about. But there's two sides to every coin, obviously. But this is one side of the coin. I wish I could zoom in, but I can't. So I brought her just to watch over me this afternoon with you.
Good.
But thank you. Yeah, just art books, just, you know, my stuff that I need for functionality, you know, and pretty things as well. So
So tell us a little bit about the stone carving. I've never even heard of that. I mean, I've seen, sculptures and of
Yeah.
course the great arts and everything, but what does that entail? How did you pick up that interest?
Randomly, I was studying metal, basically foundry,
Mm,
on a larger scale. And when you go to university, no matter what you go for, you have prerequisites that you have to take, or
right.
other classes. Same with fine arts. So you
Mhm.
still have to do language, math, all that stuff. But you also have to take other mediums outside. You have to take painting 101, draw, everything. And one of them, I had to fill a slot. And I was like, I'm like, oh, I'll try stone carving. It was just a random
Wow.
thing. And literally one day, and I've never felt, I'm going to feel that again, like overwhelming.
Yeah.
It was just, I switched. It was my senior year, my last semester. You have to do a whole show to graduate, where like I had the Philadelphia Art Museum, one of the curators come
Oh
to
my
it. It was a
goodness.
big deal. I changed my focus in my last semester in stone, and had to fill a whole entire show of stone carving, which is close to impossible. And one installation. That was just what we had to do. And it was unbelievable. I had a Japanese teacher, and her whole philosophy was more than just carving the stone. There was a whole thing to it,
I
And
can imagine. I can imagine.
and
Yeah.
if anyone knows me, I'm a little hyper, and it definitely helped center me and calm me. And so, yeah, it's still part of my life. Maybe not as much as I'd like at times, but
And so what do you do? Do you order stones from certain places? I know I watch a couple of channels. I know I watch Michigan Rocks and places like that. And he sells giant boulders. Is that
yeah.
what you do? You
I
get the
would go. It depends. You can order specialty smaller pieces. If I needed some smaller pieces of marble, there are places that you order. You pay more in the shipping and handling than the actual
I can
stone itself.
imagine. Mhm.
Or I would go to quarries, like do road trips, rent a big old
Mm.
U-Haul that can hold X amount of weight, and pre-arrange it, because I'm not a big company who's going and buying, whatever,
Right.
$500,000 worth of Carrara marble. That's, I need the little tail bits,
Yeah.
and they will sell. And I would go. It was fantastic. See all the machinery. It's a crazy experience, quarries. But you learn a lot about that kind of rock, and stone, as opposed to jewelry. So there's quite a difference, but a
And
lot of similarity as well. So it was
what materials, what stones lend themselves to your art?
me, anything I can carve.
Anything you can
honestly,
carve.
honestly, I prefer different types of species of marble. I like different alabasters. Alabasters come
Mm.
in a variety of colors, hardness. It's beautiful, translucent to opaque. My least favorite is granite, because it's very toxic. I won't carve
Oh.
granite, actually.
Mhm.
And limestone, sandstone, but if I need it and that's all I can get, I will work with it. So, but more marbles and alabasters are my choice for sure, and they're in the same family. So
Let's go back a little bit on your history again with your grandmothers and how you actually she also sells Kiersten also sells online at Etsy and different venues, right? Don't you sell on Etsy?
Poshmark, I do mostly
Poshmark.
Poshmark.
So she's been selling for a while. She's got experience selling, and one of the names on Poshmark is named after your grandmother. So tell us about that and how that came to be your inspiration.
Okay, it's called. It was Bubby's House of Bling. Now it's just Bubby's Bling. That's what I called my one grandmother, was Bubba. It's Yiddish for grandmother.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and she was a huge. My mom was a fairly young mom, and my dad was my crazy dad, and so my grandparents had a huge part of my life. And I was shipped
Mhm.
off to them in Palm Beach, Florida, which I loved. When I say shipped off, it was pleasant for me. I don't know about anyone else, but it was pleasant.
Right.
And my grandmother was very, very much into fashion, jewelry, design. It was her passion. Not selling it, but
Right.
acquiring it, buying it,
Yes.
designing it. Yeah. And from a very early age, I would just, that's all I remember. Literally. I mean, that's all I remember from her.
She was that's what they call me now. Well, somebody said you're the jewelry grandma.
Yeah.
Because there's different grandmas, and so I'm the jewelry grandma.
Yeah.
But you didn't actually start wearing it and loving it, or did you always like jewelry until later when you were an adult? Is that correct?
I've always loved jewelry, always, but not necessarily the stuff my grandmother. I mean, I loved it on her, and I would admire it. But I was funky, I wanted like big chunk. I still love big chunky sterling,
Right,
and my grandmother, she did too later in life, but she had more of a refined, very 40s, 50s, like wife, different time, different everything. She traveled the world, my grandfather, and bought stuff around the world, and so it was interesting just to see I grew up a lot in Palm Beach, Florida, and I don't know if anybody is familiar with Palm Beach, but we lived on Worth Avenue, which is hoity-toity. I don't know how else to say, so I spent a lot of time. There was very few children, so you had to be you had to act a certain way, which was, thank goodness, easy for me. So I was easy for my grandparents, and so they schlepped me everywhere with them. It didn't matter if I was a little kid. So when Henry Winston was designing something for my grandmother, I was there sitting in the back with the sketch artist, and I was doing my own thing, but I was just part of it. There was no difference between what adults did.
Who did you say was designing Winston?
Yeah. Henry
Winston.
Okay. Yeah.
Excellent.
And it wasn't him, it was one of the designers. So I should be
right. So it was high jewelry. Your grandmother was into the high jewelry, very much so, right?
Very much so. Until later in life. Then she taught me she always taught me lessons one way or the other. But she I wrote some places down because I couldn't remember all the names, but there's a place on Worth Avenue. It's been there for 129 years, if you can believe it. It's one of the oldest jewelers, and it's called Greenleaf and Crosby. And she used to go there when they were just had the little attic above whatever place. Now they have this massive, or have had this huge store. So, and my grandmother's name is in a plaque there. So it's interesting to be part of that history. Not me per se, but witness.
That's incredible. Yeah, that had to have rubbed off on you in more than just jewelry, but design and everything else. You've been a part of. That's really, really interesting. And so you have some pieces from her. You said wanted to show?
I was watching, I think it was Mia. It was on your channel, your interview, and she had gone to her safety deposit box. I'm like, I'm going to go to mine.
Oh my goodness.
I figured,
Absolutely. Wow.
So I figured, okay, so
my eyes are going to water now.
I only brought a few pieces because, I didn't know. But okay, so when I was saying that, my grandmother, things were very precious, but she treated jewelry with respect, everything like that. But she also wasn't afraid to wear it, I should say, unlike me. I'm afraid to wear a lot of things. So let's see if I can. Okay, so here's the camera. Sorry, we're on a different stream I'm not used to. So, okay, so this is.
Oh my gosh.
Natural, I sit in here. Okay, natural emerald, not total natural diamonds and platinum. This is, I had to get all the information. Gerard, Garrard. This was made, Princess Di's wedding ring was that designer. This was made before he ever made hers. This was my teether. Oh,
bad.
So that's why she gave it to me when I turned a certain age.
Yeah. So that's a natural emerald, not heat treated, not correct. Whatever it is they do nowadays. This is why vintage jewelry of this caliber, of this high design, high jewelry is so expensive and so sought after, is because the natural emerald is pretty much extinct these days. Yeah. They just do not sell natural. You have to go vintage.
That's true. When you look at it, I don't know, I won't be able to show it here. In the light, you see imperfections because
of course,
that's natural, and I remember
that's the hallmark of an emerald. Yeah, that's the hallmark of an emerald. They have their special imperfections.
Yeah.
And if they don't, you're looking at probably man-made.
Correct.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. And I only wear some special occasions. Emerald is much softer. I'm surprised I teach on this,
Exactly.
But Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Does
So
it fit you? What size is it?
it's
'Cause
little.
you
It's
you
very.
wear a
She's her
tiny.
pinky ring.
She
I wear
did
it.
too then. Good. Oh
Yeah,
my
but it
gosh, it
fits
was
me on my ring finger. So it's like a
absolutely.
4 1/4, a 4.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness,
So,
yeah.
sorry, I don't know where the camera is. This way,
I
sorry.
hope you have it well insured because like you said, they are very fragile. I don't know where podcast I was listening to where they were talking about a starlet or a movie star that was wearing a emerald necklace to the Oscars, and they were they were sure to tell her, be very careful when you take it off, because even though it will withstand cuts from a laboratory, but if you drop it,
Oh,
they can shatter. They can really
absolutely.
shatter. It's so
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so amazing.
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
keep everything, like tucked away. And then it's funny. My grandmother's husband, he owned
I
life.
would have brought an armored car to bring that one home.
Oh yeah. Well, you see this.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that
I mean,
is
on me,
so
people will
incredible.
think it's fake if I ever was to wear it, because nobody wears
Exactly,
this stuff anymore.
exactly.
You know,
True.
I don't
So
know.
enjoy it once in a while. I would be wearing it right now, drinking my tea or whatever you drink.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
never do.
gosh.
I just don't. I don't know. But I'll just pull out like this. How about, okay, this is an older piece as well. This is well, there's earrings. I'll show you. This is angel skin coral and 18 karat gold.
Oh my
It's
God.
massive. Here, it's like, it's big, big, big. This is so, I don't know, 60s,
Yeah, that's a 70s for
70s.
sure.
Okay, 70s. Okay, yeah.
Coral was so big in the 70s.
And then
Very,
here,
very big.
and yeah, look at
And
the earrings. Look at the style of them. I mean, they're, oopsie, camera. There we go.
there you go. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So, and these are big. So this was just stuff that she didn't even wear. At one point it was just, put in a drawer, literally. I think I found this in a drawer and asked her about it. I was like, what's this? She's like,
And tell us a little bit about angel skin coral, if you would, because I see a lot of misinformation here on YouTube. People call everything coral, they call it angel skin coral. And I have always known that angel skin coral literally is like the color of Caucasian skin.
yeah, I mean, literally, look,
Yeah, it is. It's not orangey. It's not a little orange, a little white. It's literally like a pinkish, a very
yeah,
light pinkish.
very, very light. It's,
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that one, if you would.
I wish I knew a whole lot more. I do know that it's rare now, and I don't know if it's
Mhm.
because they over, I don't, what do you do?
The
Like
harvesting, yeah, they had to
harvest, that's it.
protect it, yeah.
And it was only not available everywhere. So angel skin is just, you have the real red, then you do
Right.
have this white coral, and sometimes you'll have white coral that has a little bit of pink veining through it.
Mhm.
But true angel skin, they were only able to get in certain parts of, I don't know if it was Australia's reef. There's only certain areas.
Right, right.
And I don't, unfortunately, I don't know. I should know. I do apologize.
Yeah, it's that blushy pink,
Yeah.
exactly, Deborah.
Yeah, very pretty.
Mhm.
And I've had things that people have said that are angel skin, and it might, and I'll say, okay, but they're not this, they're
No,
definitely.
they're not angel skin, they're just a light coral and orangey, they're still orangey coral, and I don't know much about it, but I know that the ones that they're harvested now, pretty much, kind of cultured, they
Yeah.
dye them red because they're grown and they're white. That's what some
Right.
jewelers have talked about.
Yes.
So that's why they're dyed. So I wonder if that's like a young branch of it, I'm not sure,
I
but
don't
it's
know.
definitely a distinct
Yeah. I'm
blush
trying to see if you can see the
skin
earrings a little
color,
bit better,
yeah.
the color, but yeah, it's very flesh tone, very, very flesh.
Mhm. So, be dubious. I mean, be careful of people that you listen to on some of these shows because just because it's a light coral does not make it an angel skin coral. And definitely you can see the harsh red of dyed coral. So
Yeah.
always ask about that too.
Yeah. And
And again, you
that's
have to look to vintage. What was that surrounded by, that gold ring? Was it just the gold
it's a
setting?
textured. Yeah, this is
It's
18
just
karat
textured.
gold.
Okay, because it almost looks like it has diamonds or something around
Oh
it.
no, yeah, that would be
It's just sitting
something.
like in a beautiful gold nest.
Oh, well, it sort of
Oh
looks like
my
a nest, just
god.
no diamonds,
Did you say it was 18 karat?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, and like angels, and like when you look it up, you can find it, these, I love gaudy, so
Me too.
my mother hates
Me
this
too.
stuff. That's why I
We're
got
on the
it.
gaudy side today as well.
I love it. But yeah, right. It's not, but back then it was, and you can find similar type things. they're very expensive. And I guess it is because you
They
can't.
are, because you
Yeah.
got to go vintage to go
Yeah.
natural.
Yeah.
You got to go vintage to go natural.
Yeah.
On emeralds and rubies, and definitely on the coral.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one little set. And okay, so I might as well. So when my grandfather once a year would my grandmother gets a design or pick out some. When I say allowed, she could do whatever she wanted. He was not like that with her.
Right,
They're
right.
from that time period. But when you're going to drop a lot of money, even if you're a well off, well, at least my grandfather was actually very frugal, not my grandmother. Anyway, when she came home with this, I love this. It was a huge sculpture on your finger. This is David Webb.
Oh my gosh.
And it's insane. It's massive. And there's like an inside brace. I don't know.
Is this incredible, guys? Can you believe we're seeing somebody actually wear that instead of just seeing it in a picture?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so insane.
There's like
David Webb.
a brace inside here that you can adjust so it doesn't flip flop on your finger because it's so heavy. So you squeeze it to fit your finger better on the inside.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That's high design for sure. Thank you, everyone who's here. Looks like Lunchtime Jewelry with Emily is here as well. And she said that the coral we were talking about is actually from Hawaii.
It's
and
from Hawaii.
Japan, Taiwan, and Hawaii.
Well, thank
Very
you.
interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, but that's an incredible. Did you say that was sterling, that web?
No, this is gold. This is 18.
Oh my gosh, I can't see the colors.
Yeah, I think I have my blinds open.
That always happens with the metals. And wow, so it's 18 karat gold, I'll bet. Oh,
yeah, he only works in 18 karat, David Webb.
Yeah, most of the high jewelry is in 18 or more.
Yeah. So and I have worn this.
You have?
Yeah, it's just it's supposed to be like a mirrored finish. It's so big, it will get scratched up. And so I try to be careful because as much as I can buff, I don't want to mess with it.
Yeah, exactly. And wear it on your non-dominant hand and all of that as well.
I mean, it's not for everyone, and I know that. And I used to call her knuckle ring because she's always.
And what did Grandma do? What did grandmother do was she just the wonderful goddess of the house, as they say?
Yes. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah. She would know. That's not true. I can tell you the actual background.
Well, she was probably a socialite and had functions and things. Huh?
Well, she did, but when she was younger, my family were all immigrants, like most people in the United States.
Exactly.
And her mother was a dressmaker. They lived in South Philly, and they made clothing. And my great grandmother spoke fluent Italian because that's who her customers were mostly, because it was South Philly and that's predominantly Italian. Even though my grandparents were not Italian. And so her whole life designed. She did the windows at Saks Fifth Avenue before it was Saks Fifth Avenue, Fifth Avenue. So she's always been in that industry. That's what this picture was of her. That was during a trade show showing off. I don't know. She was modeled something for, I don't know what designer it's written.
Even from here, she looks beautiful.
She was actually not
all
my family gorgeous, but she actually was gorgeous.
Apparently you got the genes.
Yeah. But it's true. You can't have all winners,
No.
I'm so sorry. Oh, gosh.
No, she's beautiful. I can see it from here.
Yeah, and she has all the jewelry and everything, but it was just so she had that in her, and she knew what it was like to work hard. Her mother was a fraternal twin, and they all lived together on top of their dress shop. Anyway, and so I guess she would be my great aunt, I guess is what she would be. When she was like 80 something, she was still making my grandmother take her on the subway or the trolley or whatever it was, and she would hang clothing, and she would still be trying to sell her clothing in her 80s,
fantastic. So they were in the textile garment industry.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I guess that's the way to do it. That's the way you move business.
Yeah.
You got to be aggressive, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Even when you're old and so she knew what that was like, I guess. But she didn't have to work after, my grandfather was a workaholic. And so he made up for all that, And so that's one side of my family. My other side were art dealers, junk dealers.
What a good combination, right? A great gene pool. Yes.
Like literally, like on my dad's side, this was my great grandfather.
There you
He
go.
refused to drive. He had a horse and buggy and would drive around Manhattan and parts of
Wow.
Philadelphia,
He
selling
looks
junk
interesting.
out of the back of his trailer, or horse and buggy trailer, whatever. So, and that's where my father became a art historian. So, anyway,
We've got some live chatters here today. I'm so glad you're here. Susie Dragonfly Bees Resells here as well. Please be sure and ask us any questions if you'd like in the chat. But we're learning a little bit about Kiersten's history and how she came to YouTube to share her wonderful jewelry with us. Now, we're not going to see that high jewelry, but we got to see it today. I hope one day you can, maybe while you have it with you today, you should do some videos, get some generated interest in, not everybody gets a chance to look at a David Webb of that caliber or that wonderful coral. I would do a good 10 to 15-minute video on each ring just to, have some extra content out there. It's so interesting because we don't get to see that, but in pictures, and to see someone actually hold it up like that. So you lived in Florida in a very prestigious area.
for a little while when I would go back and forth because my
You'd go
grandparents.
back, so you'd stay summers or what? Or
No,
just
I
a
was
few
shipped
years?
off. I went to nursery school or kindergarten there, but I would go all the holidays. So I was there for probably 2 to 3 months out of every year for a chunk of time. My grandparents, to be residents there, had to spend, I think it's to stay residents in Florida, you had to be there for at least, I think it's 7 months out of the year. Like there's some sort of
Right.
stipulation, I don't know. And so my grandfather he just worked everywhere. I mean, he owned life insurance companies, so it was easy for him to. He had secretaries. I mean, seriously, like secretaries in every state that they had a place and an office because he never not worked. Kind of sad, but.
And the business again was textiles and
Well,
clothing, or
my
different businesses?
grandfather owned life insurance.
Oh, okay.
So, like MetLife. I don't know if anyone's heard, but anyway.
You also lived in Philadelphia, is that correct?
Yeah, that's where my family is not from, but that's where home base is. Yeah.
And when you lived with your grandparents, it was just you and the grandparents?
Yeah. Well, my mom would send me over there to stay with them.
Right.
Break.
But no one else lived with y'all, so it was just a
Yeah,
wonderland of fun, I'll bet, with all that stuff.
To me, it was. I don't know if I'm sure a lot of kids would find it boring. I mean, because I had to do socially type things that not so fun for most people. But I love going to, oh gosh, it sounds so pretentious and so weird, but balls at these famous places with famous people. When you're a kid, you don't know that they're famous people.
Right.
They're just, I got to dance on my grandfather's feet. You know what I mean? Like it was just.
No, it doesn't sound pretentious at all. It's a whole big world out there, and this is what's so fun about meeting new people here on these shows as well, is that we don't all come from the same background. We just have a commonality of this love of jewelry, whether it's high jewelry like she just showed us, or like Chanel taught us, you don't have to have money to have style.
Right.
And she brought costume jewelry to the forefront for all of us to appreciate as well. So it's not pretentious at all. But tell us about the other grandparents and the junk dealers. That should be fun too.
Okay, so we got my mom's side of what I was just talking about. And then we have my I call them my bio dad side. Let's call them that. And they were also immigrants and different everything. They found beauty in the old, I guess, and so that's they made do with that. So my grandmother's on my dad's side, he was a junk dealer. And that's what it was called back then. Now it would be an amazing antique and awesome dealer.
Exactly. I once used that term and someone came after me about it. That's what it is. You never know what you're going to find, right?
Exactly. And he would peddle, he would go around and sell. And then, and that's how that part of the family made a living for a while. And then my grandmother, they eloped, whatever. They had their romance, their lovely romance.
Right.
And he was a bad boy, and he eventually had a job, but he opened nightclubs in really seedy parts of New York and Philadelphia, but amazing people. It was like blues, like amazing people played there. And so there was that whole subculture. So I had such a different life from hanging out with my mom and hanging out with my dad's side of the family. There was a lot of beatniks and poets and artists and things that you don't want kids to be exposed to necessarily, you know, different times, different everything. But there's a whole fashion culture that comes along with all of that as well.
What part of Philly, someone asked?
I'm sorry?
What part of Philly? What part of Philadelphia was this?
Okay, well,
You grew up?
I grew up, my father's in Central Cities, like Rittenhouse Square area, and my mom is out in the suburbs, like Villanova, Bryn Mawr, where all the universities are, like that. But my grandparents were, the club thing was before I was born. That was probably like in the, I think it was the 60s. So, and that was in West Philly, which, you know, and Overbrook Park, which not so great, still not so great, you know.
Did you know both grandparents very well?
I knew all my grandparents. I was very fortunate.
Closer to close to both of them?
I was.
I know sometimes some of us are a little bit farther from each other, and you know, can get that way.
Yeah, there was a time when there was a dispute, as families sometimes unfortunately have, where I was unfortunately not able to see my dad's side of the family. You know, but I was so little. I don't remember any of that, thank God. You know, so I just remember the great parts and everything.
Good.
You know, my father is well, he's retired now, but he was an interior designer, but he also did he's been on what's that show? Antiques Roadshow. He was one of the people that would go to. He did Sotheby's. He was one of their appraisers. He owned a shop, but it wasn't open to the public. It was for design houses to come to get antiques and that. He would refinish them. So like, that was his whole thing. Which
your mother's a designer as well, isn't she? I know you shared her pictures of her home, or I remember she did a video. It was incredible.
Yeah, she's a designer. She's actually a mosaic artist, but she creates environments, I think is what it's called. That's what the book's called. I don't know. But yes, she's an artist of sorts, but she's fantastic. I mean, they're just how the whole family, you've got like the lawyers and doctors and business, and then you've got the arts, you know, and I was fortunate.
Exactly. And it takes both for this world to run well. Yeah. Guys, give us the thumbs up if you're enjoying the video. Don't forget to subscribe to Kiersten. I'll have all her information down below. Who do you think actually gave you the more artistic side? Or was it just a little bit of everything and you just went to cutting up stone? What do you use to cut the stones with?
Power tools. Well, I learned doing hand.
Pick up those power tools.
Yeah, we have to learn with the old before you can do new. So I learned just chisel and hammer first, mallet, and then I moved up to pneumatic tools. The power tool, I don't know, you know, that both, I guess. They're both, I was just part of my life, I think. But you had like the real glamorous part, and then you had the part that was not glamorous at all. And I'm kind of that as a person in general. Like my mom says I'm a tomboy in a dress, you know, like I would sleep with heels, like, you know, when I was little, you know, like, but you know, do you remember anything aesthetically from the Philadelphia family that may have fueled your passion for jewelry or artistic endeavors? Well, they all had work ethic was super important. Laziness was not acceptable. You know, I got that from both for different ways. My dad's side, for instance, my grandfather, he had retired. And he said, no, a still mind's a dead mind. You need to stay busy at all times. And he opened a pawn shop with his buddy in like his 80s or 70s, you know, like not in a great neighborhood, but everyone knew him. Stan the man. Like it was crazy, you know, and I was like, what are you doing? And then I fell in love with pawn shops more so because
you saw the jewelry coming in and all the other stuff, or the people.
Bins of it.
I know.
But then there's stories, and there's sad stories that come. Some of them are real, some of them aren't, you know. And to me, it's, yes, things are beautiful and there's history. It's the whole package of it, the whole thing that's important. I might not know somebody's story, but you get a feeling. Jewelry has energy. In my opinion, I feel. People might think I'm nuts, but I do.
No, I feel it too. Absolutely.
And I'd like to honor it. And sometimes, like, you know, I can't keep it all, and I would love to, but I feel suffocated by it sometimes. So
Mhm.
and when that happens, then I know it's time for me to let go, you know, and
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you kind of, if it's something you really, really like and you wear it, and then maybe you can wear it a couple of times, and then you're like, maybe it's sitting there a little bit too long. Maybe someone else would really like it this way instead of that way. Or because I used to feel like I had to own every piece of turquoise was ever made, especially from the 70s. It's like no one else can have it. I have to have it. That was my time. That's what I grew up with. I need to own it all. And then I'm like, you know what? I think I have enough turquoise rings in that armoire. I think now I'm going to start looking at gold a little bit. It's crazy. And then, I'll let it go. And people are like, oh, that's really nice. I really love it. And that makes me happy too, that they appreciate something
yeah,
that
yeah.
you had, that you also
Oh,
loved for a
absolutely.
time. How did you start making jewelry? I know you also have dabbled in that. She actually has made jewelry as well.
Yeah,
I love that little,
I
what do
didn't.
you call that little armor ring that you wear? That's so
Oh,
cool.
yeah, that it's
We've
armadillo.
seen
I
it
call it
in her
armadillo.
chat. Be sure and check out her sale
Yeah.
tomorrow night. She
Yeah, I'll
wears
bring
it
it tomorrow
sometime.
night. I moved a lot as not a little kid, but as a young adult. Let's say I wanted to travel the world, need to find myself, as people say. My mom,
Right.
still jokes about it with me. So I would go to different schools all the time, which is not the way to. I was a professional student. We'll just put it that way. And I was going to Loyola University in New Orleans, which is where I really found myself, I think, in a lot of ways. And
Mhm.
I didn't know what I was going to focus in when I transferred. I knew I was going to eventually transfer to an art school, and I didn't know to go to jewelry or to go to sculpture, because in Loyola the department was very little, and I had opportunity to do jewelry in that department. It wasn't separate from the sculpture; it was just the art department. It wasn't crafts versus fine art, and I loved it. And previous to that, I was hospitalized when I was younger for a few months. And
Mhm.
you had to go to school. And so in the facilities, and they had the jewelry. I had already graduated. I graduated very young because
Mhm.
school wasn't for me. So I needed to graduate. So I graduated young, took jewelry classes at, I think I was 15, and made my first rose quartz. I remember rose quartz ring. It was just like a cigar band, not done very well, but I was so proud.
Thrilled, I'll bet.
I loved it. Anyway, so university, I got to learn how to do pours, how to do sand casting, how to do lost wax. You learn different techniques, and I absolutely adored it. But when I transferred to a different school, I had to choose, and I chose sculpture.
Yeah.
Um, I
So you don't do any of it now? You haven't when was the last time you made a piece of jewelry?
Oh boy, 20 something. No. Well, the
Wow.
armadillo ring, that was that was about
Yeah.
15 years ago.
That's
15.
what you called it, the armadillo ring.
Yeah.
I called it a shield, I think.
Well, it looks like a shield, but I just call it
Yeah,
armadillo because it
it's
has
so cool.
yeah, I made a run of those. The jeweler, okay, when I say I made it, I designed it in the wax. And I
Mhm.
brought it to my jeweler, said, can we make this? And he took it to who he gets stuff fabricated from. And they did the lost wax and did all the forms and everything like that. So I have the mold of it, but I'm not the one who actually, I just designed it and did the original casting of it. Then we got it produced. And we also got it produced in different metals, and some of them had little stones, and it was beautiful. But it wasn't economical; like it was expensive.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I
that's the
made them
thing
for
about
myself, my
making
friends,
jewelry.
my family.
Yeah, that's the thing about jewelry, especially if you were to wanna do it in gold or something. You really have to have investors helping you out and getting you started in that, or, being able to have that capital to at least have a few pieces to present. But, someone asked about your favorite sculptor. Who is your favorite
Oh my
sculptor?
goodness! Well, Isaham Noguchi is one of my all-time favorites. I love him. Barbara Hepworth. I mean, there's so many. It's so hard to choose. Uh, I mean, I love Rodin. Like it really.
I love Rodin too.
I do. Yeah,
You're
yeah.
probably the only one I know about, but I love that I would know by name or something, but
Oh, it's
yeah,
beautiful,
definitely the thinker.
fantastic. There's a lot. I do tend towards more abstract. Is more my thing.
Mm.
Uh, but you have to know how to abstract. So you have to study the actual human form before you can abstract it. Just like
Exactly.
and but if I had to pick, it would be Isaham Noguchi. His materials, everything, his growth it was fantastic. He's still fantastic. That's one person I'd love to meet. If you ever see this, Isaham unbelievable. He's still alive, and I'd be speechless. He's the one person that would make me speechless in life, honestly.
Yeah.
Look him up. Isaham Noguchi. Fantastic.
So that's Japanese?
Yes. He lives in America. Yeah. But yeah, Noguchi, really fantastic. Beautiful. And you'll see his progression from just like everyone else, like Picasso. You see how his old works are,
right.
Portraits, and and then he slowly changed the face. And I was wearing a ring that looks very much like a Picasso. Or is it? It's not Picasso. Broken down.
Oh, that's so pretty.
It's for sale. I tried selling it last sale. I'll bring it back. Anyway, it's Mexico. It's Tasco. Anyway, but they break it down into shapes, which forms itself really lovely, especially in stone carving. I love architecture, so you can take that into play. A whole thing. It's a whole thing. Yeah.
Did you keep every piece that you inherited of that high jewelry, or?
Okay, so there was a deal with it. My grandmother, there was some real big pieces that my parent, my mom and her siblings, they were to sell. Everything was supposed to get sold and split between them, and then they do what they want for their children, the grandchildren, whatever.
Right.
Some of it's still in the safety deposit box that the time wasn't right. Diamonds are not a good investment. I learned that. I'll just tell you now. You can have the most flawless, beautiful, hugest piece made by a famous person, but unless you are famous and it was worn at a specific place at a specific time, you're going to get a tiny fraction of what you get.
Provenance is everything when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
That's why we'll pay millions for Jackie Onas's costume pearls.
Exactly. So, but I have a couple other pieces. I don't know if anyone would be interested. I don't know.
Yes, please let us see it. Maya says she's got a matching brooch to that ring. I bought an interesting piece. She said she does.
Wow.
I bought an interesting piece that looked very much like a Picasso thing as well, but it was inlay, and I forget the name of it. I think it was Adrian Alamode who told me the name while I was thrifting it in Chicago. I'll have to look it up, but it's a famous, and he does everything in a little bit of gold and a little bit of silver. I'm gonna put the camera on you so you can show us some more jewelry.
Oh, okay. I only have a couple pieces with me, but okay. So I told you my grandparents on my mother's side, they traveled the world, and she would have her junk drawer, she would call it, and it was like little Asian, let's say she went to Asia, little satin Asian, pouches and the little pin cushions that I'm sure everyone's seen, and fans, all that kind of stuff. But she would buy herself jewelry, of course. And this is one of the pieces that I managed to acquire. And it's 18 karat gold, jade, and pearls.
Gosh.
It's incredible. I've never worn it. I need a place to it. But I mean, even just the clasp, it's just a different time, people. Here's the back of the.
That's beautiful. I would say timeless, Kiersten.
Yes. Oh yeah. And
I would say timeless. You could wear that today and look like it was made today, but it's got that old world look of.
Yeah. And I love this. And I have unfortunately, like I said, there were times in my life where I was not so smart. And I did sell off some incredible pieces that I wish in retrospect that I hadn't. And, I don't ever want to say, I don't like to live in regret,
Right.
But I remember my grandmother, one thing I can say, when she got much older and very lonely after my grandfather had passed and this and that, one of the reasons why I forgot to say that I wanted to start my channel, sort of not to take advantage by any stretch of the imagination, but it's going to sound so ridiculous, but my grandmother was lonely, didn't want to leave, didn't want to have anything to do with anyone. And I remember her love for QVC and a Home Shopping Network. I know it's so silly, but it made her, she felt comfort in it. And thank goodness she had the money where it wasn't going to affect her unlike I know it probably does other people, but like she had a closet, literally a closet, walk-in closet. You'd open it and it's like boxes just came falling out. And it was all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and my family thought it was appalling and this and that. And I didn't. I understood, you know, I understood it was filling a void in her. And then you know, my mom just sold that. She, you know, I was like, oh, I would have loved to have all of that to sell to everyone, you know, great price, you know, but my mom just got rid of all that stuff because that was not, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's definitely, you know, that happened a lot. People have talked about that phenomenon of QVC and how it does fill a void for a lot of people. It was definitely, like I said the other day about eBay, it was an early foray into social media. And what we actually do here on many instances, when we do have the selling platforms that we do here on YouTube, and I don't sell here on YouTube unless I'm on a guest, and I'm going to be doing a benefit auction, by the way. Let me just kind of segue into that really quickly for Haley. She was struck, her home was struck by a tornado on Sunday. I'll be on Marzena's channel. I'll put that link as well. We're going to do a little charity auction for her, a little benefit auction. But I do find that that happens here on YouTube. People come in to have company, and they can and do turn into customers. And many times people almost feel obligated to buy, and they shouldn't feel that way. And I wish they wouldn't if they're not going to pay. And I hate to bring it out so blatantly, but it's true. There's so many fly-by-night shoppers, bidders. I don't care. I will call them a deadbeat bidder because I think that's what they are when they take advantage of a community that is not, you don't need to buy. You don't need to buy to converse. You know, you can converse, you can do whatever you need to do, but don't disrespect your host and your other chatters and your other bidders by going in there, bidding things up, and then not paying or coming up with some cockamamie excuse about my PayPal doesn't work or something. I mean, I just can't stand it. What have you found, Kirsten?
Oh, I've heard it all. I mean, and some of it I'm sure is legitimate. Okay? I'm not, you know, I've always said, I don't know about my preview today because I was rushing through it so I could be here, but I've always said, listen, you do not need to buy to participate. I'm looking at whoever I'm looking at. If you want to come and hang out, please come hang out and say hello. I've never, you know, if you can't afford to buy, don't buy. Period. Like, I don't want someone to go broke. I don't want someone not to be able to pay their bills or their medical, whatever it is. I mean, there are things that are more important. We all love jewelry, you know?
Yeah. But there is that shopaholic there that can't stop.
There is. And I've come head to head with quite a few of them, you know?
Exactly.
And some of them I've had to unfortunately just nix them, had to block. And, you know, no one wants to do that. It's not like you look forward to blocking people. That's not it at all, you know? But you know, you're taking away stuff from other people who are also bidding, which is so not fair. And it's not fair to me. It's how I make a living right now. It's how I pay bills, you know, and I want to have jewelry for the following week, but if people aren't going to pay, guess what? I can't pay bills.
And you lose. This is what people don't understand. And I just wish you would. You do not get the momentum back of an auction, especially if you started something at such a reasonable price and then it went up to, you know, 4 or 5 times more. And you're not going to get that momentum back. You are really violating this wonderful medium that women on here, men on here are selling. And, you know, it's a give and take. Nobody's making you buy anything, but you're taking advantage of that. And then that person has to go contact the backup bidder, maybe offer it at their last bid. Everybody lost. And then you feel bad because you have to bring it the next time. And they're going to know who it was that didn't pay because they were bidding against you. It just looks bad all around. But you know what? Sometimes we do have to just put our foot down and say, no, you know, this is not going to happen. Block them and let other people know too. If I am happen to be in the chat and I see someone who did that to a lot of people, I will contact that person and tell them, just be careful because this person doesn't pay. I'm just saying. But anyway, okay, we just want to clean house there for a minute because Kirsten has wonderful jewelry. She has wonderful auctions on Thursday night. Hi, Soho, California. Thank you for being here, as well as Vita and Linda Clancy. I appreciate everyone who's here. Be sure and thumb up the stream. We've learned so much about Kiersten and her family and her wonderful artsy background. I hope she blesses us with more content. I know you do wonderful shorts and your husband helps you. He's an artistic kind of guy too, isn't he? He's a musician. Tell us about that.
Yeah, he's a musician, a content creator as well for himself and for other people. He is an animator. He does cartoons for. He did Adult Swim was one of the ones that was coming for him in a good way.
Good.
He owned a record label. I mean, he's been there, done it type of guy. He does help me with my live sales, and some people love the banter and some people don't. And
I love him. He's so funny and
he
so
is.
sweet with you. I'm
No,
just thinking you're so lucky. I mean,
I
I'm
am.
lucky too. I have a great husband, but you are very lucky to have someone who can help you with your sales like that. Many men are just like, that's your business. You do
Oh,
you and whatever, but he's helping in lots of ways that way. And I'm sure he helps you creatively as well with your sets.
well,
Does he?
no, he'll help with like lighting. Like in the middle of my sale, he's
Yeah,
like, no, don't look good. And like I'm like, honey, we're live.
good.
Like I let him do his thing. But no, he doesn't. He'll say you're not picking the right music for shorts, Kirsten. He worries more about the algorithm, and I'm
Yeah,
clueless. I pick the songs that I like that I think looks good because my shorts. I do love making shorts. It's how I'm being
they're
creative right
fun.
now.
Yeah.
And I believe in showing jewelry with fine art. So not all of them, but most of mine, if you ever do happen to watch any, there's always artwork in the background that I hope helps represent the jewelry. They have a relationship, and I like the music to round it all out. So, and do all that in 15 seconds or less.
I know. I love that. I do too. I love picking the music too. I just kind of, if I'm moving something around, I'll put some Texas swing or something just for fun. It's
Oh
just so
yeah,
much fun. And it does help you gain subscribers too.
it
So
does.
it's a good medium, and they're starting to monetize them a little bit better. They're pretty, pretty average right now, very much below the other ones, but they're fun, like I said, and it's a way to flex your creative muscles.
Yeah.
But again, let's go back real quick for
Oh,
how do you pick out jewelry? I don't want you to tell me
oh,
where you buy
oh,
it
I'm
and
sorry. Yeah.
or your sources, but what has to attract you for you to say that's something I want on my show?
Well, okay. I live in a dry city, okay, it never was. This was a fantastic place for me to source jewelry since I've lived here, up until the pandemic. I
Mhm.
think I heard someone else mention that briefly. Unfortunately, Goodwill stopped selling jewelry here before the pandemic. So that was just something that corporate decided for some whatever reason. And I used to score some amazing stuff that, like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah, I'll
things that
bet.
I could just make so much money on, and it was crazy.
Mhm.
That stopped. But I liked mom and pop shops. Those were my, my bread and butter, so to speak. And they'd let you build a relationship, and they let you go through stuff behind the
Yeah.
scenes, tangled crap. Because I was also, back in the day, I was just doing scrapping. Metals, precious metals, when it was the height of the gold market, not the height in history, but in my history that I remember,
Yeah, yeah.
my son was little. He was in like preschool. So he's 16 now. So we're talking a while ago, and I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. So during the pandemic, most of those places didn't make it. So like driving around, I'm like, okay, let's go sourcing, let's get back to living life again, and most of them didn't make it. And it was horrible. I think Thelma's frozen. Uh-oh. And are you there, Thelma? Okay, well, I think she's there. I think she's just frozen. So it's been very difficult sourcing, is what I'm trying to say in a nutshell.
There you go. We both got lost for some reason. I had to
Okay.
add and re-add us. So if you'll just tell us about, you used
Okay.
to find all the good stuff, then they stopped selling it. Then you
Okay.
really like the mom and pop places for
And then
sourcing your jewelry.
most of them closed during the pandemic.
Mhm.
And so during this whole, YouTube thing, it's been very tough because I'm a hands-on person. I want to see it, touch it, smell it, taste it. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I literally will I'm so bad. I know it's gross, but I taste
I
it.
got to do it too. Right.
It's hard. So
I'll kind of wipe it like this. And I'll
yeah,
start
I do that
looking.
too. Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, we're fine.
Exactly.
So bad. Oh my gosh, it's embarrassing. But and I always will wash the stuff off. Don't worry, you're not getting my germs sent to you. But so I have to do a lot of sourcing online, on auctions and specialty sites, and it's difficult. It's extremely difficult. I curate every show literally piece by piece for the most part. Sometimes I get lucky and I'll buy a few pieces from the same seller to help with shipping costs. And it's
Right,
like,
right.
it's hard sometimes. You have to understand, everyone who comes to different people's, everyone can offer different things, different price points, which is fantastic. But that being said, I have to offer it at what I can get it,
Of
make a
course.
little bit of money off of, and still offer something affordable and beautiful. My cost might be more than some other people's, and it might reflect sometimes in some prices. But then there's times where I know that I got a fantastic deal, and I'm most certainly going to try to pass that along to anyone who might be interested in it. So I do, and it's difficult. I want to say, if I need 60 pieces for a show, let's just coming up with a number, 60 pieces. I need at least 40 something of those to be new pieces. So every week I need to be purchasing.
Yeah, because nobody wants to see the same thing over and over again. I know we run into some shows where it's, oh, it didn't sell last week, and I try to avoid that too. In my Facebook auctions, I put it away in the bottom drawer. I have an armoire full of jewelry, and I'm like, I'll bring it in 6 months, maybe, because nobody wants to see the same thing over and over again. They want to see new things.
Right.
I was watching when you had, unfortunately, one of your husband's friend's mother had passed, and you got a hold of some incredible jewelry.
Yeah.
Who was it again? Well, Gerda Moniz was one, I remember. And then there was that other one that's always at Neiman's. I forget his name. But you had all these big names of high jewelry, not high jewelry, but high designer jewelry.
Yeah, and some are famous jewelry designers from Texas. A woman who makes incredible earrings. And of course, I'm literally spacing all these people. And it was
incredible.
a pop up. It was incredible. It was really cool I had to learn about this stuff, because I didn't know any of these designers, because it's not stuff I would normally buy.
Some of them were 80s Monies, and oh my gosh. And you let them go. Well, they went, they got a great price, but compared to what they were on eBay, they saved about 50% of what they're selling on eBay. So people got really lucky. I love that citrine one. I almost emailed you about that one because it didn't sell.
I think
I was like, no, I need to pay the house today.
I think I still have it.
Really?
You said you put stuff away.
Oh, you need to bring up some of that back, or maybe do like a little, again, video showing them, and then you can just say, if you're interested, email me or something, because it'll bring out more content for your channel, and we can see more beautiful jewelry. Nobody ever gets tired of looking at beautiful jewelry.
That's true.
But that was incredible. You did sell a lot, though, right?
I sold a lot. You had to be a certain type of person to love that.
Yeah,
very artsy, very
different.
big.
Everybody knows Moniz. Hi, Doug. Yeah, it was just an incredible night.
And I was happy to be able to do that for our friend.
Exactly.
And every now and then, like I get those opportunities. I mean, I don't know, that's not a great way to say it. When someone passes, I don't want to call that an opportunity, but like to help out one of my friends.
Right.
In our community here. But every now and then I get like a jeweler who's willing to say, hey, Kirsten, here's a couple pieces on loan, see what you can do with them. So, which is great, because I can't afford necessarily to put my money out for some of these pieces. But if someone trusts me enough, which is fantastic, to let me bring it home.
And you could help them. And, we're all headed that way. We're all going to pass. And it's just a good thing that someone was able to acknowledge the quality of the jewelry, and maybe contact, like they contacted you or whatever, did some research on it, and not just dismiss it. Oh, it's just wood jewelry. Oh, I'm just going to, dump it at the Goodwill. That's how the Goodwill gets lucky. Sometimes they really do, because people don't bother to do that research. Do you still go to pawn shops or anything like that?
I do.
Good. I've been wanting to go so badly, and I have so much other things to do, but I need to go. Yeah, it's a great place.
It's, the chain pawn shops are not where to go if you're going to try them. You go to the more mom and pop one, individually owned. Now, a lot of times they're not in the best neighborhood. I mean, just to be honest, like, it's funny because I don't feel like I'm old, but I am older than I was, and knock on wood. I mean, that's a good thing. But I get a little weirded out sometimes, unless it's some place that I'm used to going. But, after the pandemic, a lot changed. And I really am trying to get out into the real world, but I've aged mentally and physically. But so sometimes you have to challenge yourself safely. Obviously, you're not going to go somewhere,
Right.
but and it's okay, because you walk into the place and they're not mean, like, yes, it's a business like any other business, and
Exactly.
just be normal. Don't act, just be honest in what you're looking for. I mean, I don't sell to pawn shops. No, I sell to jewelers because I'm going to get a better price. And I
Yeah.
don't sell from Meltdown anymore like I used to, unless it's all broken. I mean, I've learned a lot.
Right. If there's no value in the jewelry as designed, then of course you like, I don't fix chains. If it's a gold
Yeah.
chain, I don't fix them, none of that.
No.
But I used to be addicted to 14 karat gold, and still am kind of 14, 18, 22 and live at the pawn shops. All the 70s and 80s, I would live at the pawn shops. And that's where you would see the coral on gold, the genuine emeralds, that kind of stuff. So it was just amazing.
Yeah.
But I haven't gone in a while. And there are some pawn shops here in Houston that cater, they're called luxury pawn shops. So they don't sell guns, they don't sell electronics, they just sell luxury antiques and art. And I did a ride along once there. And they have, they have a Cartier section, they have Tiffany.
Oh, nice.
It's just incredible. And all the Gucci's and Louis and everything else you may need. So I do love that as well.
Wow.
But
Well,
yeah, that's good. I'm going. I just haven't had the chance. Yeah, I'm going to do a whatnot sale tonight in a couple of hours. So also you'll find that link here. Okay. Be sure and subscribe to my beautiful friend here. She is a wealth of knowledge with this jewelry. I hope you share with more videos for us, because we like listening to you speak. We want to see your beautiful hair. Have you ever seen more beautiful hair in your life? Oh my gosh. So please grace us with your presence with some of those videos as well. I'm going to bid her farewell so she can get ready. That's another thing I was going to say. You have an incredibly organized auction. We're not waiting around for much. You just got it all there. So I hope to get that organized for my whatnot tonight. But it was a pleasure meeting you and talking face to face with you. I know we've talked in chats and everything, and I enjoy your show very much. Hope that everyone else will subscribe, and see you tomorrow night, Thursday, around 8 o'clock Central?
It's 8 Eastern, 5 my time, so 7 Central.
Check out those auctions. She's got amazing jewelry, and you'll get to watch that and enjoy that and support her. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. We're going to sign off. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Thelma. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure. All right. I think it